Hello dear students, my name is Dragana Radoјčić and I'm an English teacher. At the beginning of this lesson, I would like to thank you for taking interest in this presentation. Our topic is present simple. Dobar dan svima, moje ime je Dragana Radojčić i ja sam nastavnik engleskog jezika. Na početku željela bih da vam se zahvalim što ste pokazali interesovanje za ovu lekciju. Naša tema je present simple ili sadašnje prosto vrijeme. First of all, let's say something about present simple. Prije svega, reći ćemo nešto o ovom vremenu, present simple. Let's talk about use. We use the present simple to talk about habits, routines, and regular actions. Let's simplify a bit. In other words, we use present simple to talk about something that happens every day. Kada govorimo o upotrebi ovog sadašnjeg prostog vremena, trebamo reći da ga koristimo kada razgovaramo o navikama, rutinama i nekim svakodnevnim aktivnostima. Pojednostavimo. Drugim riječima, koristimo sadašnje prosto vrijeme kada razgovaramo o nečemu što se događa svaki dan. Let's talk about form. Razgovarajmo o oblicima. When we talk about forms, we need to specify affirmative, negative, and interrogative form. So let's conjugate the verb go. In affirmative form, it goes like this. I go, you go, he goes, she goes, it goes. We go, you go, and they go. In negative form, I don't go, you don't go, he doesn't go, she doesn't go, it doesn't go. We don't go, you don't go, and they don't go. Interrogative form. Do I go? Do you go? Does he go? Does she go? Does it go? Do we go? Do you go? And do they go? This is the conjugation of the verb go in present simple. We have here affirmative, negative, and interrogative forms. If you look at the affirmative form in this first column, you can see that we use the base form or infinitive form of the verb. The only difference is in third person singular. Goes. He goes, she goes, it goes. Where we need to add the suffix es to the base form of the verb. When we want to make a negative form, then we use the auxiliary verb don't. I don't go, you don't go, and we don't go, you don't go, and they don't go. You can see the difference in third person singular, where instead of don't, we use the auxiliary verb doesn't. When we want to make interrogative form, or when we want to make questions, then we use the auxiliary verb do and does. Do I go? Do you go? Do we go? Do you go? do they go? Again, you can see the difference in the third person singular. Instead of do, we use does. Does he go? Does she go? And does it go? Kada razgovaramo o oblicima, moramo da definišemo potvrdni, odrični i upitni oblik. U ovoj tabeli sam navela način konjugacije, odnosno promjene glagola kroz lica. U ovom slučaju koristili smo glagol go ili na srpskom jeziku ići. U ovoj prvoj koloni gdje imamo potvrdni oblik, možete da primijetite da jedinu razliku imamo u trećem licu jednine, gdje umjesto oblika go koristimo oblik goes, gdje smo na osnovu glagola dodali sufiks, odnosno nastavak is. Kada razgovaramo o odričnom obliku, koristimo pomoćni glagol don't i doesn't. Doesn't, kao što vidite, koristimo samo za treće lice jednine. U upitnom obliku, odnosno prilikom postavljanja pitanja, koristimo dva pomoćna glagola, do ili does. U ovom slučaju does koristimo samo kod trećeg lica jednine. Let's talk about affirmative or positive form. In affirmative or positive sentences in present simple, we've got the following formula. Subject comes at the first place in the sentence. Then we use verb. This S here stands for the suffix, which is added to the verb base in third person singular. And then we add complements. For example, I, you, we, they. These personal pronouns have the function of the subject. Then we take verb play, for instance, and complements football. In this particular sentence, football performs the function of direct object. Now, pay attention to these personal pronouns. He, she, it. They perform the function of the subject. Now, instead of base form of the verb, in the third person singular, we use the verb plus the suffix es or s. So instead of saying he go to school, we say he goes to school. Kada razgovaramo o potvrdnom obliku, imamo sljedeću formulu, odnosno obrazac. Subjekat dolazi na prvo mjesto u rečenici, zatim glagol u njegovom osnovnom obliku ili u trećem licu jednine dodajemo sufiks, odnosno nastavak s. I onda slijede komplementi, odnosno ostali rečenični članovi. Pogledajmo sljedeći primjer. I, you, we, they imaju funkciju subjekta u ovoj rečenici. Play je glagol, odnosno predikat, i football ima funkciju komplementa, odnosno direktnog objekta u ovoj rečenici. He, she, it imaju ulogu subjekta, također u ovoj sljedećoj rečenici. Goes, glagol, gdje smo dodali sufiks es za treće lice jednine, i to school ima ulogu komplementa. Let's talk now about negative form. When we talk about negative form, we have this formula. Subject comes at the first place in the sentence. Then we use auxiliary verbs, don't or doesn't, for third person singular, and verb in its base form or infinitive, plus complements. For instance, I, you, we, they don't play football. He, she, it doesn't go to school. In this first example, I, you, we, and they perform the function of the subject. Don't is an auxiliary verb. Play is the verb in its base form or infinitive, and football has the function of complement or direct object. He, she, it. Again, these words perform the function of the subject. Doesn't is auxiliary verb. Go is the verb in its base form or infinitive, and to school is the complement. Kada razgovaramo o odričnom obliku, imamo sljedeći obrazac. Subjekat dolazi na prvo mjesto u rečenici, zatim slijede pomoćni glagoli. Don't ili doesn't koristimo za treće lice jednine. Zatim dolazi glagol u svom osnovnom obliku i ostali rečenični članovi. Pogledajmo sljedeći primjer. I, you, we, they imaju ulogu subjekta. Don't je pomoćni glagol. Play je glagol u svom osnovnom obliku, odnosno infinitivu, i football u ovom slučaju ima ulogu direktnog objekta. Zatim sljedeći primjer. He, she, it. On, ona, ono imaju funkciju subjekta. Doesn't je pomoćni glagol. Ovaj oblik, rekli smo, koristimo samo za treće lice jednine. Go je glagol u svom osnovnom obliku i to school je dodatak, odnosno komplement. Let's talk now about questions or interrogative form. When we talk about making questions, we've got the following formula. Do or does comes at the first position in the sentence or in the question. Do or does is an auxiliary verb plus the subject plus the verb in its base form or infinitive plus complements, and we put the question mark at the end of the sentence. Do or does have the function of auxiliary verbs, where does is used only in third person singular. Subject, here we have you and he. Play is the verb in its base form or infinitive. Go as well is the verb in its base form or infinitive. And to school is the complement. Here you can see that this suffix es should not be used in this case. Kada govorimo o pitanjima, odnosno upitnom obliku, imamo sljedeći obrazac. Pomoćni glagoli do ili does dolaze na prvo mjesto u rečenici. Zatim dolazi subjekat, zatim dolazi glagol u svom osnovnom obliku i ostali rečenični članovi. Molim vas da obratite pažnju na ovaj drugi primjer. Does he go to school? Gdje nije dozvoljeno da koristimo oblik goes zato što smo već upotrijebili does. kao pomoćni glagol. Znači, nikako ne možemo reći does he goes to school, nego does he go to school. Now, let's talk about short answers. In positive form, we have yes, I do, yes, he does. Negative, no, I don't, no, he doesn't. Let's talk about spelling rules in third person singular. Number 1. General rule is to add the suffix s. Now, 2. Verbs ending in ch, s, sh, ox add the suffix es. For example, catch. We cannot say catches, but catches. Finish. We don't say finishes, but finishes. Go, goes. Do, does. 3. Verbs ending in a consonant B, C, D, F, G. Change Y to IES. For example, copy, copies. Fly, flies. Cry, cries. And 4 irregular verbs. Be, is, have, has. Let's now talk about some time expressions. We have here some words like always, usually, often, sometimes, never. These 5 words here are adverbs of frequency. And we've got here some other time expressions like every day, every week, in the morning, on Mondays. Kada govorimo o nekim vremenskim odrednicama vezanim za sadašnje prosto vrijeme, morat ćemo da naglasimo riječi kao što su always, uvijek, usually, obično, often, često, sometimes, ponekad, and never, nikada. Također, neke od vremenskih odrednica koje koristimo su every day, svaki dan, ili svakodnevno, every week, svake sedmice, in the morning, ujutro, on Mondays, ponedjeljkom. Ove riječi always, usually, often, sometimes, never su priloške odredbe za vrijeme. Let's now look at the following picture. These words here, as we already said, are the adverbs of frequency. Always, usually, often, sometimes, never. Pogledajmo ovu sliku. Na slici možemo da vidimo ovih 5 riječi. Već smo naznačili njihovo značenje. To su priloške odredbe za vrijeme koje koristimo kao vremenske odrednice sa ovim prostim sadašnjim vremenom. The following chart shows the frequencies of these adverbs. Sljedeća tabela nam pokazuje prisustvo, odnosno frekventnost ovih priloških odredbi. Always, usually, often, sometimes, and never. Always, uvijek, na osnovu ove tabele možete vidjeti da je to nešto što se uvijek dešava. Usually, obično, often, često, vidite manju prisutnost, sometimes, ponekad, još manja prisutnost, and never, nikada, nema uopšte boje, znači nikada. We can also put sometimes, usually, and often at the beginning of a sentence. For example, sometimes Josh drives his children to school. Instead of saying, sometimes Josh drives his children to school, we could say as well, Josh drives his children to school. Sometimes, usually I often također mogu da stoje i na početku rečenice. Na primjer, Josh ponekad vozi svoju djecu u školu. Let's do some examples. Uradimo neke primjere. Joey never goes to the cinema. We're good children. We always say hello to adults. Never and always are the adverbs of frequency. So, using these words, we want to specify how often or frequent something happens. Let's do some more. The children sometimes watch cartoons during the week. Tim often plays football on weekends. Two more examples. I always brush my teeth in the morning. We usually go to the library to borrow books. That's all for today. Thank you and goodbye. To je bilo sve. Hvala vam na pažnji i doviđenja.